The Giant's Causeway on the coast of Northern Ireland is one of the UK's outstanding natural features. Its steep cliffs and deep bays form a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The valley filled up with lava until it was 100 meters deep. It was 1,200 degrees Celsius, and it's like everything. If you boil a kettle, it'll cool down. Everyone thought Giant's Causeway was just a natural wonder, a masterpiece of volcanic stone shaped by fire time and ancient pressure. But one 11-second drone video may have shattered that story forever. A tourist arrived on the cliffs of Northern Ireland chasing nothing more than a perfect sunset. His drone lifted into the golden evening sky, gliding over the legendary coastline, capturing the towering basalt columns that have fascinated travelers for centuries. Then something happened that should not have been possible. The camera caught a section of solid cliff moving, not collapsing, not breaking, opening. A massive slab of stone estimated to weigh nearly 20 tons slowly slid outward from the rock face with terrifying precision. No explosion, no falling debris, no signs of erosion. It moved like a door hidden inside one of the most famous geological sites on Earth, and behind it was darkness. Not a shallow crack, not a cave entrance tourists somehow missed. A deep, unnatural black void with no visible end, a hollow space where no hollow space should exist. Then, just as silently, the stone moved back into place, sealing itself so perfectly it looked like nothing had happened at all. The man controlling the drone wasn't a treasure hunter. He was a 34-year-old electrician from Dublin, filming cinematic coastline shots. But what he captured has now triggered questions that reach far beyond tourism or geology. Because Giant's Causeway is supposed to be solid, scientists have long said its 40,000 interlocking basalt columns were formed millions of years ago by volcanic lava, cooling into near-perfect hexagons. Natural phenomenon. Nothing artificial. Nothing hidden. But if that stone truly opened, then someone or something may have built a door inside the mountain. And what Irish archaeologists found when they finally opened it shocked everyone. What the radar revealed, the researcher didn't waste a moment. She rushed to the site with her ground-penetrating radar, the same cliffs she had studied for years. She is one of the world's leading geologists, someone who knows these stones better than almost anyone alive. She set up her equipment and began scanning the exact section of cliff where the stone door had appeared. What showed up on her screen made her freeze. For nearly 2 full minutes, she didn't say a word. The radar revealed a massive hollow chamber hidden deep inside the solid rock. The space measured roughly 12 feet deep and 26 feet wide. That discovery alone should have been impossible, but what was inside the chamber was far more disturbing. The scan detected 7 tall figures standing upright in the darkness, each one measured between 7 and 8 feet tall, far larger than any known humans who lived in Ireland thousands of years ago. Even more unsettling, they weren't scattered or random. They were arranged in a precise formation spaced exactly 4 and 1/2 feet apart, like soldiers standing at attention. Every single one of them was facing the same direction, facing the door. Inside the cliffs of Giant's Causeway, that's when the discovery stopped being strange and became truly terrifying. Basalt doesn't form around standing objects. That simply doesn't happen. The only way those figures could exist inside solid stone is if they were already there while the lava was still liquid. And that means they've been sealed inside for at least 60 million years. Humans didn't exist back then. Even the dinosaurs were still disappearing. Whatever these things are, they were here long before us. And then it got worse. They were warm and they had heartbeats. The figures weren't solid stone. The following day, another scientist arrived with more advanced scanning equipment, a geophysicist from Belfast who specializes in reading underground structures. At first he worked calmly and professionally, but about 20 minutes in, his hands began shaking so badly that he had to set his tablet down. His detailed scans revealed something deeply unsettling. The 7 figures were hollow. Each one was a shell with a thin outer layer, as if something had once occupied the inside or possibly still did. Even stranger, the material made no sense. Whatever those shells were made of should never have survived molten lava. Nothing organic can endure temperatures above 2,000 degrees, and yet these forms existed inside rock that had once been liquid fire, sealed there for tens of millions of years. Within 48 hours, government agencies were alerted. That's when things became truly strange. An official environmental agency arrived and released a public statement dismissing the entire incident. They claimed the drone footage was nothing more than light and shadow. They insisted there was no hidden chamber and urged the public to stop speculating, but there was a problem. Their lead consultant refused to sign the report. Witnesses say she reviewed the sonar data, turned visibly pale and resigned from her position the very next week. Her resignation letter was only 1 sentence long. She said she had seen enough. Soon after, the entire area around Giant's Causeway was sealed off with barriers and warning signs. Officials blamed erosion and safety concerns. But everyone involved knew the real reason. They weren't protecting the cliffs. They were hiding something. One of them disappeared. One researcher quietly returned 4 days after the first scan. She wasn't breaking protocol. She was following it. Comparing new data with earlier results is standard in any serious investigation. She expected no changes at all. But when the new image loaded on her screen, her heart nearly stopped. One of the figures was gone. Only 6 remained. The stone door hadn't opened, even once since the original event. The electrician had installed a motion-activated camera aimed directly at the cliff face, recording non-stop. The footage showed no movement, no shifts, no cracks. The door stayed sealed the entire time. And yet inside that locked chamber, one of the 7-foot-tall beings had simply vanished. There was no dust, no debris, no tunnel, no indication of where it went. It was as if the thing had walked straight through solid basalt. The researchers had no explanation. How could anything move through stone without leaving a trace? Was there a hidden passage the radar couldn't detect? Or was something even more disturbing at play? Could these beings pass through solid matter itself? Then came another shock. They were warm and they had heartbeats. A different scientist arrived from another city to run thermal imaging tests. Her goal was simple: rule out volcanic heat or underground water that might explain the strange readings. It was a freezing March morning. The air temperature was just 39 degrees. The cliff face was just as cold, exactly what you'd expect along the Irish coast. But when she aimed her thermal camera at the hidden chamber, the screen exploded with bright reds and oranges. Inside the sealed room, the 6 remaining figures were glowing with heat. Their temperature read 99 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly identical to the internal body temperature of a healthy human. That should have been impossible. Stone cannot retain that kind of warmth for 60 million years, especially not while surrounded by icy ocean air and cold rock. And yet, deep inside the cliffs of Giant's Causeway, something was still warm. Something was still active, and one of them was already gone. Heat doesn't behave like that. It spreads out. It fades. It disappears. The readings were so precise that the scientist actually asked her colleagues if they were playing a prank on her. The numbers looked too perfect to be real. But when she realized no one was joking, she quietly packed up her equipment and stopped responding to emails for 3 full weeks. Then the team tried something else. They installed vibration sensors directly into the rock, designed to listen to what the stone itself was doing. What they detected was far worse. A rhythmic pulse was coming from behind the wall, steady and unmistakable. It repeated every 4 seconds. One of the scientists chose his words carefully, but eventually admitted the truth. It sounded exactly like a slow, deliberate heartbeat. The thermal readings weren't stable either. At random moments, temperatures would spike above 100 degrees, then gradually fall again. These changes didn't match ocean tides, weather shifts, or any known geological pattern. Whatever was producing the heat wasn't coming from the rock. It was coming from inside those hollow shells, and they were moving. Every 72 hours, the team ran new scans to track the chamber. What they saw made the situation even more terrifying. The 6 remaining figures were changing position. They weren't moving quickly. They weren't jerking or shifting suddenly, but scan after scan showed them inching forward just a few inches at a time. They were no longer standing in perfect formation. Now they were clustered together, and they were slowly advancing toward the sealed door. It looked less like random movement and more like awakening, like something stirring after an unimaginably long sleep. Think about that. These beings have been sealed inside solid rock for 60 million years. They existed before humans. They outlived the dinosaurs. They endured continental drift ice ages and the rise of civilization itself. And now, inside the cliffs of Giant's Causeway, they're starting to move in our lifetime. The government cover-up. More than 1 million people visit the Giant's Causeway every year. Families stroll across the ancient black stones. They take selfies. They listen to tour guides share playful stories about giants building bridges to Scotland. None of those visitors have any idea what's really there. They don't know that just 39 feet behind the cliff face, hidden in total darkness, 6 massive entities remain radiating body heat into the surrounding cold stone. And the government has worked relentlessly to keep that secret buried. Heavy barriers and bright yellow warning signs now surround that specific section of the cliffs. If you ask a park ranger why the area is closed, you'll hear the same explanation every time. Falling rocks, unstable ground, routine safety concerns. They want it to sound boring and ordinary, but the real reason that spot is sealed off is because of what an electrician accidentally captured with his drone. One of the scientists involved tried to make the truth public. She spent months analyzing the thermal data, documenting the heat signatures, and compiling her findings into a detailed report. She submitted it to the official geological board, convinced the world deserved to know that something inside the Earth was still alive. Her paper was rejected immediately. She was told her equipment must have malfunctioned. Her methods were questioned. Her conclusions were dismissed. Then quietly, a friend who worked on that board contacted her in secret and told her the real reason. No one wanted to deal with the chaos this information would unleash. If the public learned that biological heat signatures existed inside rock that's 60 million years old, it would shatter everything we think we know about history. Entire scientific frameworks would collapse. Textbooks would need to be rewritten from the ground up. In April, all monitoring equipment was quietly removed from the site. The scientists involved were warned to stay silent or risk losing their careers and never working in their fields again. But here's the thing. The evidence didn't disappear. It's still there. Even with all their efforts, the government couldn't erase every trace of what happened. The electrician still has the original drone footage backed up on 3 separate hard drives hidden inside his home. The researchers involved made their own quiet decisions too. Each of them kept secret copies of the sonar data. And that data is the most disturbing part of this entire story. The final sensor readings taken just before the equipment was removed showed the 6 remaining figures were still active. They were still shifting, still pulsing. The one closest to the door was now only a few feet from the entrance, and its rhythmic heartbeat was growing stronger with each passing day. But there's one question that refuses to go away. Where is the 7th one? When the chamber was first scanned, there were 7 figures. Now there are only 6. One of them is already gone. If it escaped from that sealed room, where did it go? How did it get out? And most frightening of all, where is it now? It could be anywhere. Deep beneath the freezing waters of the Atlantic Ocean, hidden inside a dark and unexplored cave along the coastline, or somewhere else entirely moving through places humans have never set foot. The idea that one of these massive ancient beings is already out there unseen and active is chilling. It feels like we're watching the final moments of a countdown that began millions of years ago. We like to believe humans were the first intelligent life on this planet. We like to think we're in control, that the Earth belongs to us. But these figures suggest otherwise. Something else was here first. They existed long before the first human ever built a shelter or lit a fire. They survived the planet's cooling, violent volcanic eruptions, the shifting of continents, and the rise and collapse of countless civilizations. And for reasons no one understands, they're choosing now, this exact moment in history, to wake up. What the AI revealed. Before the equipment was taken away, one researcher made a desperate decision. She gathered every piece of data they had collected, the sonar scans, thermal readings, vibration patterns, and movement coordinates, and fed it all into an advanced AI analysis system used by leading universities to study geological anomalies. She expected the AI to find mistakes. She expected warnings about corrupted data or malfunctioning equipment. That would have been the easy explanation. Instead, the system processed everything in under 4 minutes and delivered results that left the entire team in stunned silence. The AI confirmed that the rhythmic 4-second pulse was not geological in origin. It compared the vibration pattern against a massive database of more than 200,000 known natural phenomena, including tidal movements, seismic activity, and underground water flow. There were 0 matches. The conclusion was blunt and deeply unsettling. This pattern wasn't natural, it was biological. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. The AI went further, cross-referencing the thermal readings with the movement data collected during those 72-hour intervals. It mapped the path of each figure and projected where they were heading next. The results were chilling. The figures weren't moving at random. They were advancing in a deliberate, coordinated sequence, like they were following a plan set in motion long ago. Then the system uncovered something even more alarming. Something hidden deep in the sonar data that no human had noticed. Beneath the figures carved into the chamber floor were markings. Geometric patterns etched directly into the basalt. They weren't random shapes. They weren't natural fractures in the rock. The AI identified them as a repeating sequence, a structured system governed by mathematical rules, possibly a language. The system couldn't translate it. Nothing in any known human database matched the patterns, but it reached one conclusion with 94% confidence. The markings were intentional. They were intelligent. They were consistent. They were created by something that understood geometry at a level that rivals modern engineering. When the researcher shared these results with the rest of the team, one of them completely broke down, because this meant the beings inside the rock hadn't merely survived there for 60 million years. They had communicated. They left messages. They made plans. They weren't trapped. They were waiting. The AI's final output was a single line, one no one on the team has been able to forget. After analyzing all available data, movement patterns, thermal escalation rates, and projected trajectories, it calculated a probability window for what it described as a significant event at the sealed entrance, the estimated time frame within the next several months. The researchers printed the report. They made copies. Then they stood by as every piece of equipment was dismantled and hauled away, the site sealed, and the official explanation locked firmly into place. But the AI doesn't lie. It doesn't have a career to protect. It doesn't fear pressure politics or consequences. It only reads the data, and the data says something is coming. But here's the part no one wants to say out loud. What happens if that stone door opens again? Because according to the thermal scans, the movement patterns and the strange seismic pulses now being recorded beneath Giant's Causeway, many researchers believe this was never a one-time event. It was a cycle, a mechanism, something designed to open and close until the time was right. And that time may be now. The 6 figures detected behind that hidden volcanic chamber are no longer motionless. Their heat signatures have grown stronger. Their positions have changed. They appear closer to the entrance than before, as if whatever has been sleeping beneath those ancient basalt columns is slowly waking up. That is where the real fear begins. Because if that chamber opens again, those beings won't be stepping into the same world they once knew. They would emerge into a planet transformed beyond recognition. New oceans, new continents, new skies, and a species calling itself the ruler of Earth. Us. Are they dangerous? Are they intelligent? Do they remember a world that existed before human history? Before mammoths, before even the first true mammals walked the earth? No one knows. And that uncertainty is more terrifying than any answer. For centuries, humanity has treated ancient history like something dead, buried under stone, trapped in fossils, locked inside forgotten myths. But what if history was never dead at all? What if it was only sleeping? One of the archaeologists involved in the investigation said something that still haunts everyone who heard it. We think of the past as ruins, but what if the past is waiting? What if it remembers us and it knows it's time to return? The stone door has already moved once, on its own. The figures inside are warming. Their heartbeats, if that's truly what the sensors detected, are growing stronger. Every scan points to the same impossible conclusion. They are preparing to leave, and when they do, humanity may be forced to confront the one truth we were never prepared to hear. We are not the first. We were never alone, and the original owners of this planet may be about to come back for what was always theirs.